When you are suffering from anxiety, your mind can become bombarded with intrusive and anxious thoughts. Your brain will often worry about your anxiety, all your strange and your bizarre symptoms, and if or when you will fully recover from anxiety. In this episode, we're going to talk about why you're experiencing anxious thoughts and how to get rid of them so you can once again have a peaceful, quiet mind. Let's begin. If you want to get rid of your anxiety permanently, I have the 5-step cure to anxiety and panic attacks in the link below. That will give you a step-by-step guide on how to get rid of your anxiety and all its sensations. It's completely free. All you have to do is click the link below. All right, anxious thoughts affect almost all anxiety sufferers. The reason you experience anxious thoughts is because your nervous system is in a sensitized state. It is engaging your fight or flight response unnecessarily and flooding your body with an excess of adrenaline and stress hormones. What this means is that your body and your mind are reacting as if you're in danger. So you are in a heightened state of awareness, and your mind is constantly looking for what's wrong. This means your brain is generating all types of fearful, anxious thoughts. These thoughts are easy to recognize because they tend to start with the phrase, what if? What if I have a panic attack at the dinner party? What if I faint in front of all my friends? What if I never feel like myself again? What if I can't sleep tonight? What if I can't go to work tomorrow? Your anxious mind does a fantastic job of coming up with these types of anxious thoughts. And we refer to these as intrusive anxious thoughts because they show up even when we don't want them to, even when we're desperately trying to concentrate on something else. This can be very disconcerting because it can feel like you've lost control of your brain. You can be trying really hard to concentrate on something important, like a work project, but your brain just keeps going back to these anxious thoughts. Here's what I don't want you to do. Don't try to ignore intrusive, anxious thoughts. If we try to ignore them by shutting the front door, they will come through the window. If we try to close the window, they will come right down the chimney. They will always find a way into your brain. You might have heard advice to just let your anxious thoughts be. Let them happen and don't address them. But that is the worst thing you could do. If you don't address them, what will happen is you will go down the rabbit hole of anxious thoughts. Let's use an example. Imagine, for instance, you're in a work meeting when you begin to have a big wave of anxiety. The first thought that goes through your brain is, what if I have a full-blown panic attack while I'm in this meeting? Now, that's your first anxious thought, but your fearful brain, it doesn't stop there. It then begins to play out possible contingencies and worst-case scenarios associated with that first thought. Like, what if I have to abruptly leave this meeting? What if the panic is so bad that I need to go home? What if I can't finish the project by this evening's deadline? If left unchecked, your brain will run wild with these thoughts. But that's a problem because these thoughts are perceived as potential threats, and that triggers your body to enter into a defensive state and release even more stress hormones. So, in other words, your anxious thoughts are just going to make you more anxious if you allow them to. Looking back at the previous example, notice how your first anxious thought acted as a springboard for more anxious thoughts? It is the first thought that helps generate all the other thoughts and send you down the rabbit hole of anxious thoughts. To avoid this from happening, you need to dismiss your anxious thoughts, which is step number 1 of the fearless approach that I teach. The way we dismiss our anxious thoughts is by saying, who cares? Each time an anxious thought pops into your mind. For example, what if my anxiety gets bad while I'm stuck in this meeting? Your response, who cares? What if I have a panic attack on the airplane? Who cares? What if I can't sleep tonight? Who cares? By dismissing an anxious thought with who cares, You declare to your brain that you don't care whether that thought manifests or not. You don't care whether you get anxiety during the work meeting, have a panic attack on the airplane, or you can't sleep tonight. If it happens, you don't care. Dismissing an anxious thought strips away the fear that's embedded in that thought. And by removing this initial fear, you eliminate all the subsequent downstream fears. For instance, if you're not afraid of whether you'll be able to sleep tonight, then you won't be afraid of the consequences of not sleeping. This eliminates the need for follow-up anxious thoughts, like, what if I'm exhausted again tomorrow? And what if I'm so tired that I can't go to work? You've stopped the anxious thought spiral in its tracks. Now, naturally, some of these anxious thoughts will be difficult to dismiss. It might be that you dismiss a thought only for that same thought to return a few moments later. That's because with some thoughts, the fear is deeply embedded in your subconscious. For these, we're going to need to take it a step further by providing a reason for your indifference. Here are a couple examples. What if I have bad anxiety all day again today? Your response? Who cares? I'll have more opportunities to practice the fearless approach. What if I have a panic attack on the airplane? Your response? Who cares? I can handle anything that anxiety throws at me. Now, your responses don't always have to be serious. Feel free to be creative and have fun with it. One of my clients, Laura, she recently told me how she dismissed one of her anxious thoughts as she was at the grocery store. Her thought was, what if I faint while I'm walking down the aisle? Her response? Who cares? I'm a bit tired. I could use a little nap anyway. In the beginning, there are going to be times when you don't actually believe what you're telling yourself as you dismiss anxious thoughts. You might tell yourself that you don't care whether you have strong anxiety all day, but you're actually still genuinely afraid of that potential reality. That's okay. Just keep dismissing anxious thoughts, because what you're going to find is that it becomes increasingly easier to dismiss these anxious thoughts as you start experiencing the sensations of anxiety in the right way. This is all detailed in the 5-step cure to anxiety and panic attacks that's in the link below. Once you've dismissed an anxious thought, I want you to turn your focus to an engaging or immersive activity. It could be reading a book, running an errand, or having a telephone conversation with a friend. Do whatever you want, but just make sure it's something that you can really concentrate on. What happens is, by diverting our focus, we reduce our brain's ability to generate these anxious thoughts. Again, these thoughts will still pop in your head from time to time, but just dismiss them and then shift your focus right back to your chosen activity. With some practice, you will find that by dismissing anxious thoughts, you will regain control of your brain so you can concentrate on the things that you actually want to concentrate on. You will be able to focus on that work project, that hobby, or even that conversation you're having with your child. You will once again be fully present in your life. Thanks so much for watching, but before you go, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can keep getting actionable ways to overcome your anxiety.